Voyager's tracking down a wormhole, or trying to anyway, as we learn it doesn't have a fixed entry point and instead pops up in random places like a celestial Where's Wally. That doesn't mean the other end is random though, and we're hoping it might spit us out somewhere closer to home. If we're lucky, it'll even be in the right time period too. We arrive at the last place it appeared, a solar system with one planet inhabited by a pre-warp civilization somewhere around Bronze Age development. Well, mostly, as they do appear to have replicators. Now, I'm not a xenoanthropologist, but I suspect developing matter-energy conversion before functioning indoor toilets isn't normal. Tuvok seems to think this means they've had contact with the Alpha Quadrant, which seems a bit arrogant to me in that it assumes nobody else has developed identical tech, but maybe it broadcasts a made-in-the-Alpha Quadrant signal or something. Janeway at least is in favour of gathering more data before making assumptions. Unfortunately, that gathering does involve Chakotay and Paris doing a little cosplay and visiting the planet. As an aside, I'd normally be screaming my little lungs off here about the Prime Directive, but if the replicators were inserted into their culture by an alien species, this could constitute a repair of that original interference. Or it would have done if they said they were going for that reason rather than to find out about the wormhole, so we'll call it half a violation. Chakotay and Paris teleport down to the surface and make a start on gathering data. They're accosted by a street poet who gives them some lines from The Song of the Sages and offers to continue for a modest fee. A local trader interrupts and offers to find them any manner of goods or services for a modest fee. Both mention the Sages, and both are rather aggressive in their sales pitch. Almost as aggressive as a Ferengi, in fact, and again, I think we've got an episode title that's spoiling the reveal. I'm all for a good pun, but not at the expense of the story. Chakotay manages to get away from the guy and perform some very subtle scans by openly using his tricorder in the middle of a busy marketplace. He detects a science wibbly around a temple and suggests to Paris that they should investigate. Our friendly local trader points out that nobody visits the temple without wearing some ears, apparently a necklace bearing charms that look decidedly familiar. It's an affront to the temple to not wear them and may result in a fine, he says. Handily, our new friend can supply them, for a modest fee. Up on Voyager, Janeway's getting an update on the wormhole. B'Elanna and Kim tell us it's definitely from the Alpha Quadrant, which is a fascinating coincidence, but I guess they didn't make episodes of all the times they found wormholes to the Epsilon Quadrant or whatever. The problem, we learn, is that the wormhole entrance on this end is moving around so fast that even if we race to it when it's detected, it'll be gone before we arrive. They think they might be able to do a science on it and make the wormhole come to them, but it'll take some time. Back on the planet, our newly aired crewmates don't get the chance to enter the temple before its contents come to them instead. A gong summons a trio of women from inside, who don't seem to be wearing ears by the way, and a guy who drags what looks like a cheap charcoal barbecue with him. He introduces the Holy Sages, and, well, we'd all figured out where this was going by now. After unveiling the Holy Icon, a Ferengi replicator from the looks of it, they launch into a religious sermon peppered with the rules of acquisition, which is probably a Ferengi copyright violation. We're in a meeting and Chakotay and Paris are updating everyone on the situation planetside. We're told the native population have mythology involving two sages from the sky arriving to rule over them, and the Ferengi used this and their technology to insert themselves as gods. Tuvok says this ties into some shenanigans the Enterprise got caught up in several years ago, something about negotiations around a wormhole in the Alpha Quadrant, which resulted in a Ferengi ship entering it, all of which rings a bell, but I guess we'll get into that when we watch The Next Generation. Regardless, the shifting exit point in the Delta Quadrant stranded them here, and they made the best of things. For them, anyway, according to the people Chakotay and Paris spoke to, the natives used to have quite a prosperous society before the Ferengi arrived and bollocksed it all up. Janeway doesn't plan to let that slide and says if they can bring the wormhole back, they'll take the Ferengi with them. Tuvok points out that the Ferengi aren't part of the Federation and subsequently not bound by the Prime Directive, but Janeway argues they're here as a result of the negotiations by the Enterprise, so the Federation is partly responsible and this is merely correcting their error. It's a delicious bit of weaseling on Janeway's part, and I'll strike that half a violation off the record as a reward. In the temple, we're shown the sages lording it up over the people they've robbed. They summon the guy who was pulling the charcoal barbecue earlier and, in the middle of berating him about profits, are teleported away. As an aside, a point to whoever thought of ending this scene with him celebrating his good fortune. In Voyager's teleporter room, after introductions, the Ferengi protest their removal. Even after being told they might have a way back home, they continue, apparently not keen on giving up the Eden of exploitation they've created here. Indeed, one of them embarks on an epic speech about how they've fulfilled a prophecy that forms one of the core tenets of this planet's belief systems. If the Federation simply removed them now, the disappearance of their holy sages could lead to political instability and the collapse of their societal structure, causing untold damage to their development. Looks like Janeway's not the only one who can do some weaseling this episode. After considering this, Janeway orders them to be returned to the surface. The Ferengi celebrate their victory, but we know Janeway well enough to be sure that she's not going to let this shit slide. Time for a meeting. The problem, Janeway suggests, isn't the Holy Sages leaving. It's the Holy Sages leaving without explaining that they want to. If they can make the Ferengi tell their worshippers that they must leave for excellent reasons, it'll be accepted as the will of the gods and become part of their mythos. The solution then is to make the planet unpalatable for them, and for unpalatable, read unprofitable. After setting up a gizmo so they can't be teleported away again, the sages are in their vaults surveying the treasure they've accumulated, all of which could have been replicated and is thus worthless, but let's not think about that too hard. A knock on the door heralds the arrival of a guest, but who could it be? Why, a representative of the leader of the Ferengi Alliance, the Grand Nagus, who just happens to sound a whole lot like Neelix. He tells them that the Federation ship managed to stabilize the wormhole and make contact with the Ferengi, and the Holy Sages have been recalled to Ferenginar to explain their operation and, more importantly, give the Grand Nagus his cut. Oh, and before they leave, they should tell the population that everything's fine and not to worry just in case we want to rob them again in the future. Cosplay Neelix leaves and takes both a couple of bags of money and charcoal barbecue guy, much to his delight. The Holy Sages aren't quite ready to give up yet though and turn to the rules of acquisition for a loophole. Failing to find one, they instead think of another, somewhat more straightforward plan to thwart the representative. Kill the bastard. Cosplay Neelix is sitting outside the temple, giving away those bags of money to anyone who'll take it, raising eyebrows on charcoal barbecue guy, who notes that this is distinctly unsage-like behaviour. Returning to the vault, Neelix is greeted by swords. Fighting ensues and Neelix gets knocked on his arse. Facing the possibility of gaining some extra holes, he confesses that he isn't a proxy for the Grand Nagus after all. Hell, he's not even Ferengi. They throw him out to deliver a message to Voyager, namely, piss off. His cover blown, Neelix meets up with Chakotay and Paris. As they're leaving, our poet accosts them once again and offers more verses, for a modest fee. They're about to decline when Chakotay wonders how his poem, The Song of the Sages, ends. In exchange for his shoes, we learn that the story climaxes with some bright stars in the sky and a pilgrim coming to lead the Holy Sages back to the heavens. Pilgrim, eh? I wonder who that could... Neelix, it's Neelix, the pilgrim is Neelix. Later that night, in front of the temple, cosplay Neelix proclaims that he's the pilgrim who's come to take the sages home. A crowd forms and the sages themselves come to see what the bloody hell all the noise is about. Neelix tells everyone gathered that he's here to fulfill the song and, to prove it, here are those 3 new stars it promises. Cue Chakotay telling Voyager to do some photonic jiggery-pokery. The sages plead with charcoal barbecue guy to arrest the imposter, but he's had enough of their shit and wants them gone. He tells the gathered crowd that they must complete the song and guide the holy sages to the heavens on wings of fire and... Oh dear. Fair play to the writers here, I did not expect this to take a sharp left turn into Wicker Man territory. Time to teleport them out, only, oh yeah, they set up a gadget to stop that, didn't they? The sages tell Chakotay and Paris where it is, and they scarper to turn it off. Tangentially, while they're doing this, there's a throwaway scene outside the temple where one of the Ferengi turns to the other and says, happily, "We had 7 years of pure profit. And you know what? I respect that. They might be a pair of duplicitous, thieving bastards, but they face death better than some Starfleet officers." Unable to power down the anti-teleporter gadget, Chakotay resorts to Starfleet's standard operating procedure and poops some yellow on it. The gadget dies, everyone's teleported away, and the locals celebrate their ascension. On Voyager, the sages are somewhat less pleased and threaten to sue as they're dragged away. Voyager's getting ready to pop through that wormhole we'd all forgotten about and they presumably managed to open. As we're making our way towards it, the doc calls Tuvok and says one of the crew was found unconscious and, coincidentally, he was the one escorting the Ferengi. Oh, and the Ferengi just kaboomed the doors on the shuttle bay and legged it. They give us a call to gloat as they make their way to grab all of that sweet loot that they could just replicate. We try to teleport the Ferengi back, but they do a science wibbly that blocks it. Slight problem, the science wibbly also manages to both start destabilizing the wormhole and draw their shuttle into it as well. They're pulled through and Voyager tries to follow, but the wormhole buggers off. Oh, and the Ferengi science wibbly destabilized the wormhole so much that it's now random on both ends, meaning there's no point waiting for it to come back. Defeated, Janeway orders us to reset our course for the Alpha Quadrant, and the people on the planet watch as we fly away. End of episode.